We are responsible for the preparation. We are Bulgaria 1. The topic we chose is prayer in the 10. Specifically, today in this moment, the 10, the prayer in the 10 is what we need most to feel the power of unity through prayer, to pray for all the 10s, for all the friends who need our unity, who need our prayer. Let's prepare for the lesson. And here excerpt number 1. Article 17. The agenda of the assembly. 1. At the very beginning of the assembly, when gathering, we should praise the friends, the importance of each of the friends to the extent that we assume the greatness of the society. One can appreciate the society and then pray means that everyone should examine himself and see how much effort he is giving to the society. Then when he sees that he is powerless to do anything for society, there's room for prayer to the Creator to help him and give him strength and desire to engage in love of friends, the love of others. Again, at the very beginning of the assembly, when gathering, we should praise the friends, the importance of each of the friends to the extent that we can assume the greatness of the society. One can appreciate the society and then pray means that everyone should examine himself and see how much effort he is giving to the society. Active workshop question. What do I feel that I'm unable to do for my friends and ask the Creator for help with? Active workshop. What do I feel that I'm unable to do for my friends and ask the Creator for help with? Special question. What do I feel that I can do for the friends and I'm asking the Creator to help me for it? We need help in opening the heart, need help in praying for the friends, need help in asking the Creator. In fact, the discernment that you need help you get when you incorporate with the friends. That's how you get the privilege to ask for help. I'll continue. To be able to answer this question, we need to operate for the sake of the friends. We need to do actions for the friends to try to work according to the rules of Rabash, at which point you reach internal discernments that you can actually only help them with the help of the Creator, with the force of the Creator, not with your own forces, but again with what was said here, without incorporating, without doing, you won't reach a thing. It will all be philosophy, because what we're actually searching for in that question isn't like a shopping list that I have to ask for the friends all kinds of things, but an inner sensation that we acquire in the actions that we attempt to do, in our inner attitude. Friends that we try to increase, and then the Creator shines on that area and shows a person what he can do and where he needs help. What can you help with? We learned that you can help with raising the spirits, with the mood, with the greatness. Abash writes in the article a prayer of Mehdi. If there are a few people in the collective who can reach the goal of adhesion with the Creator, and this will bring the Creator more contentment than if he himself were rewarded with nearing the Creator. He excludes himself. Instead, he wishes for the Creator to help them, because this will bring more contentment above than from his own work. For this reason, he prays for the collective, that the Creator will help the entire collective and will give them that feeling that they receive satisfaction from being able to bestow upon the Creator to bring him contentment. The prayer of the friends. Dear Creator, we ask you to give the friends the greatness of the goal and of the society, strength for unity and love of others, a desire to bestow and yearning for adhesion with you in order to bring you contentment. Heat. Hey heat. Hello friends, in the first part of the lesson, we will study a lesson from November 19th, 2020 on the topic of work with faith above reason. We'll be reading excerpts from the sources. Excerpt 25. Hello, we are in a lesson on the topic of the work in faith about reason. We're going to read selected excerpts from the sources, beginning with excerpt number 25. You can find the material on CAP TV. To watch it on the Alvote, you can click the icon in the top menu. Can ask questions on CAP TV in the selected. Questions that are relevant to the topic will be asked during the lesson. I heard how you were speaking now about how to bring contentment to the Creator. We learn that certainly this can be done only if we do this through the friends. Otherwise, you cannot address the Creator. The more we repeat this, first in hearing, then in speaking, and then it becomes in action, where we come to such a state we need to already be aimed to it automatically. And nevertheless, This is not a given. That to turn to the Creator I can only through the friends, because each time we have new, each time a new vessel that is shattered is revealed in a higher up layer, in a higher layer, meaning those shatterings are being revealed from that shattering of more and more. Therefore, each time a person feels as if he never did any spiritual work at all, or that he's in spirituality, that it's already past, that he has no desire for it. It's written, and they shall be new in your eyes, where each time it's new. That's why when I went to turn to the Creator, I need to remember each time, truly from nothing, from zero, that it's possible only through the friends. And we need to remind each other about this one will help his friend. And this is being with a tendency towards the Creator, which moves specifically through the friends, where we stabilize our address to the Creator through them, as much as we arrange the group and feel that connection between us, and from the connection between us, where which I am also causing as well, that we truly reveal Him between us, and each time it's new again, and new again, and that's how it until the end of correction. Then too, as Kababel is saying, we have even greater concealment, and again we need to connect the 10, and then reveal the Creator in it again in order to adhere to Him. And that's how it is, until probably until the work is already over and we come to a permanent state, and something else opens up for us. Nevertheless, so the problem is just that we have to constantly hold on to the general spirits in the society, such that if we fall from knowledge of it, from the feeling, from that tendency, which is correct through the grip to turn through the group to turn to the Creator, where each of us is for everyone, and from everyone already together towards the Creator, so that we will be able to connect quickly and see our state arranged, organized correctly. I'm really enjoying the way you're preparing the lesson, the way you prepare yourselves for the lesson, and may we have great success. Mash. So we're going to read exit number 25. When should one use pride in the work? A person should say that although he is in utter loneliness. Again, a person should say that although he is in utter loneliness, meaning he is still immersed in self-love, and still cannot do anything above reason. The Creator still gave him a thought and desire to engage in Torah and mitzvot, commandments, and has also given him some strength to be able to overcome the spies who speak to him and poke his mind with their arguments, with their complaints. And still he has some grip on spirituality. At that time a person should pay attention to this, and believe that the Creator is tending to him and guides him on the track that leads to the king's palace. It follows that he should be happy that the Creator is watching over him and gives him the descents as well. That is, a person should believe that as much as he can understand, that the Creator has given him the ascents, since certainly a person cannot say that he himself receives the ascents, but that the Creator wants to bring him closer. This is why he gives him the ascents. Likewise, a person should believe that the Creator gives him the descents as well, because he wants to bring him closer. Therefore, every single thing that he can do, he must do, as though he is in a state of ascent. Therefore, when he overcomes a little during the descent, it is called an awakening from below. Each act that he does, he believes that it is the Creator's will, and by this itself, he is rewarded with great nearing, meaning that the person himself begins to feel that the Creator has brought him closer. Maybe again, a person should say that although he is in utter loneliness, meaning he is still immersed in self-love and still cannot do anything above reason, the Creator still gave him a thought and desire to engage in Torah and mitzvot, commandments, and has also given him some strength to be able to overcome the spies who speak to him and poke his mind with their complaints. And still he has some grip on spirituality. At that time a person should pay attention to this and believe that the Creator is tending to him and guides him on the track that leads to the king's palace. It follows that he should be happy that the Creator is watching over him and gives him the descents as well. That is, a person should believe, as much as he can understand, that the Creator is given him the ascents, since certainly a person cannot say that he himself receives the ascents, but that the Creator wants to bring him closer. This is why he gives him the ascents. Likewise, a person should believe that the Creator gives him the descents as well, because he wants to bring him closer. Therefore, every single thing that he can do, he must do as though he is in a state of ascent. Therefore, when he overcomes a little during the descent, it is called an awakening from below. Each act that he does, he believes that it is the Creator's will, and by this itself he is rewarded with greater nearing, meaning that the person himself begins to feel that the Creator has brought him closer. If we work in the right way already, then probably for us both ascents and descents are the same correct necessary stages that we need to go through, and we are not impressed greater by the ascents than we are from the descents, because we understand that both from the ascent and the descent we can bring forth advancement, and maybe even more from the descent than from the ascent, and we don't look at the time of the descent as something that we want to shorten and rise relative to the time of the ascent that we want to seemingly be in all the time. Rather, we want from every single state to do the maximal connection towards the group and maximal contentment to the Creator, and we don't measure it according to times, rather only according to the extent in which we can bestow more to the group through the 10 and through the 10 to the Creator, and then we already measure the ascents and descents in accordance to that, meaning what's more important, what's less important. In every single state we can see only that criteria. Where do I bestow more? Therefore, I don't feel that I'm in an ascent, I don't feel that I'm in a descent. I just feel whether in the current state that I'm in, no matter what it is I am doing the maximal contentment through the 10 to the Creator. Observing it in such a way aims us to a more superior point than where we are. Therefore, altogether the mechanism of a sense in the sense no matter what, more connections, less connections, the main thing is contentment. According to that, we examine what to pay attention to, what to strengthen more, and how to relate to every single state. Is that clear, please? No questions. Okay, so we will continue onwards. Excerpt number 26. There was a question from KF1. Well, KF1. Okay, that's as usual. Just how do we find the connection between the drop you're in when you're disconnected and bringing up to the Creator? Say I want to give to the Creator more and more. How do we grip this connection? Whether I'm in an ascent or a descent, does that influence me? My intention is to bring maximal contentment to the Creator and to the grouper. I need to see myself such that the ascents and the descents do not influence this tendency in me and my intention, and therefore I am truly in the same force and the same inclination and the same desire towards the group and the Creator, both in the ascents and the descents, because the ascents and descents for me are in my feelings, and the intention to bring contentment to the Creator and to the group is not in my internal feeling but in my intention, meaning I feel in a sense in the sense inside my desire, and the intention to bring contentment is seemingly in reflecting light. So I really need to pay attention to this. So let's put it this way, that if a mother that is taking care of her baby, she's not thinking what state she's in as long as she can maximally do good for the baby. That's the only thing she's thinking about, and it's not important for her whether it'll be more convenient for her or not. Will she feel better or worse? The only criteria, the main criteria, is how much she can serve him. That's why we are that way too, and it turns out that by this we rise above our individual feeling, which is always in our will to receive, and we rise to an intention in order to bestow, and we live inside the intention. Then it turns out that we're already connected to the desire in order to bestow, that we live in it, that's the essence. And to be in a sense or descent in all kinds of states is not important to us, because we ourselves can already say, it's best for me to be in an ascent or a descent, and it's not important at all what state, meaning that the maximum I want is bestow, to rejoice the Creator, that's called to bring contentment, and my states need to be in accordance to that, as much as I can maximally bestow, and these states I'm already not examining according to whether it's good for me or bad for me. I simply don't feel good or bad in them anymore. I just feel in them how much I can bestow from them, what benefit from them That's what I do the calculations over. That's the difference between doing anal, a calculation in reason in the will to receive, or in a restriction, and the screen and reflecting light which is called above reason, faith above reason. It's clear that I rise above my feeling and my reason, but how do I check if I'm working effectively with my intention? Is there a way to check it? Did I work correctly with the intention? When my intention to bring contentment through the 10 to the Creator is where I build the 10, want to present it to the Creator so that He will enjoy them, and I'm like the one who organized this in this case, arranging for them to be for the Creator. When I kind of serve Him the 10 this way, by that I examine how correctly I am as done to Him effectively that year in this, and continue more and more to connect between the friends, and to aim them more correctly to Creator, until the Creator will be revealed as He will truly be in contentment from them. The result needs to be that the Creator will be revealed in a state of bestowing to the 10. What does He bestow to the 10 in them? It is revealed as enjoying them, that He's leading them, that He's connecting them. That's the response for the time being. There are many manners the friends should they somehow feel. Show it to me, tell me about it. You can only talk about this in a general manner, in a general way, but not in a personal way from the heart. That's prohibited, because we still are not under the screen, the state where we can protect one another, but rather we can harm one another. But within my work can I see such a thing that I work well with the intention, and I see that my friends are satisfied, that they are filled happy. Sometimes, first of all, shorten what we're talking. You're taking up the general time here. So for the time being, to give you a good response, it's called to confuse you, and then you'll be proudful and leave the path. That's why the Creator knows how to respond to you, and each time He gives you a response, and you feel it more or less good, bad, but it's all coming from the Creator. You have to believe in that all your feelings and all your thoughts He arranges non-stop to give contentment to the Creator. The person of the sense, are they better states to do that? Yes and no. Actually later this, in our work, we don't have so much of a difference between a sense and the sense. I receive every single change as work, and I prepare myself through the society to be ready for every single state, both in an ascent and a descent, and in truth, the descent is more beneficial than the ascent. That's how it is, at least for the beginners. Also later, when you want to kill one another, when you can't tolerate one another, that the Creator arranges for all these states from the general shattering of the soul. Thank you. Question from a friend. Do we bring contentment to Creator with our personal effort, or we give Him contentment through actions? In time, the Creator doesn't receive a personal feeling and a personal intention and a personal state of a person, because each of us is just a part of a clay, and the Creator is the upper light which operates upon the 10 as He established them, and then any change that happens between them towards the right connection is what He feels. All the rest He doesn't respond to. How can faith about reason be the stick that I can support myself on in a state of a great descent? You should try to attribute your state to the state of the 10, and then you will see in what way is it worthwhile for you to respond towards the Creator. If I didn't sleep enough, I'm nervous, aggressive, even dangerous. Then I awaken a fall in me and in the tent. So it is the lack of sleep what causes the descent, or maybe the descent causes me to be engaging corporality, and then I can't sleep. What's the reason for the descent? And is this what we're talking about? The reason for the descent, for the fall, not good participation in the 10, is spiritual. The way it clothes a person for him to have problems at work or in his family. He can't sleep. He had problems with his health. That is already all external clothing, physical clothing of this world. You don't need to be paying attention to that, but rather behind every single thing the Creator exists, and He shows what way a person will have problems, and in accordance a person needs to see that this nevertheless comes from the Creator, and He arranged for him this descent. The form of the descent is not too important to Him. It's best to overcome it and attribute himself to the tin. All these states from someone bothering him to sleep, or he himself is sick, or God forbid something happened with his family. All those things are arranged according to the disturbances that need to be brought to a person so that he will be able to overcome and incorporate in the society. That's how it is. Hello, you said that the most important is to keep the intention whether we are in a descent or ascent. How do you do it in a descent? Is the main, if the main condition is to the group, then it's already in ascent. We need to constantly check ourselves against the 10. If I fall from the 10, that's already a descent, a fall. If I connect even in not such good states, but I'm already in some kind of belonging to spirituality, then to be in the 10 or to be disconnected from it is the boundary between spirituality and corporality. And then more than that depends on the quality of the connection. Dear love, we wanted to know how the spies that coke his mind work, and how can we overcome them, how they operate. Those are thoughts. Our thoughts are uncorrected thoughts that we need to overcome, and then by that we correct them and connect them to sanctity in order to bestow to the light. Meaning, if I rise above my thoughts and want to adhere to cleave to the group, to the Creator despite and above those thoughts, it's considered that I am correcting them, and a little more and a little bit more and a little bit more until these tiny thoughts will accumulate to such a state in which I will feel that I'm disconnecting from corporality and connect to spirituality. That's how we need to time after time. This is called a penny and another penny add up to a great sum, where in that great sum I already start to feel that I'm either in this world in a descent or in a spiritual world in an ascent. Sometimes it seems like the quickest way to faith above reason is if we appreciate the fact that today I was allowed to be with the friends in the morning lesson to simply build the feeling of it, the value of it. But you can hold on to that feeling so rarely. Are we even able to build this feeling? Because it hides all the disturbances. First of all, shutting down all the disturbances is not the goal. It might be that you're doing this because it bothers you, and I actually don't look at what bothers. That will later come to you. For a time being, you are still a beginner, let's say, and when you start keeping these disturbances inside, because without the disturbances you can't adhere to the group or the Creator, we need to feel that the disturbances are a necessary part, the most important part, for us to reveal a tendency for the Creator, a tendency for connection and the group. Because upon what will I feel that I'm yearning for connection? Only upon the disturbances. When I go against the wind, against the desire, when something bothers me where I want to reach something and I can't, from that I do actions and put forth my efforts and show how much I do want to be connected to others. Therefore disturbances are a inseparable part, and they remain. The coarseness does not get refined. This all comes only from the tendency for connection. Hence the view the desires, disturbances, those things that bother us in the connection with the Creator. Moreover, we need to also protect those that will later be as the left line, and against it there will be the right line, and a connection with the Creator in the middle line, meaning that without disturbances, it's impossible. That's why does the Creator say I've created the evil inclination? Because without the evil inclination, we wouldn't feel how we yearn for Him, come closer to Him, do something for Him. How can I, when I want to grip onto the society, to grab the Creator and not let go? So how do I do that if not through disturbances? We need to respect them just to know how to relate to them in a correct and creative way. Because all of creation is made of two forces, and only the right form and the right usage of both of them will bring us to the attainment of the goal. Therefore, even if I yearn for the Creator and for friends and they want more, I need to know that this yearning needs to be above, not in contradiction, but rather above all my disturbances. Where the disturbances need to be there and need to be helped me to move forward. And if I subjugate myself towards the disturbances, I'm not yet worthy of spirituality. Faith can only be above reason, and if there's no reason, there will be no faith. Bulgaria. Hello. And in corporality I can feel a descent, and in spirituality innocent. What does that mean? a descent in spiritual work. The true one is considered that I don't know how to use the disturbances correctly. If I know how to use them correctly, where I overcome them, and through, together with the disturbances I go to a greater connection, that's called an ascent. Where I can't use I don't want, I'm not capable of using disturbances in order to ascend. That's called a descent, where you were given the work and you cannot carry it out. That's a descent. You fall, you were given the work and you can overcome and arrange yourself such that you will nevertheless be connected to the group and the Creator. That's innocent. PT 32. You said before that we have to speak to each other directly to the heart, that we shouldn't speak directly to each other's heart because we don't have our screen yet. We can harm each other. Can you tell us how we should speak to one another? We need to only talk about the positive things in the group, only about our yearning for the Creator for the group, for the friends, the yearning of their friends. What says do? And this is not just for beginners that you need to read one time these articles about the society and it's enough for us. No, this is all throughout the path, because each time we start anew and I am new and the group is new, and it's as if I didn't do anything yesterday because they are being renewed each time. New ones are coming and I need to do this work again and again. But when I do this work with the new Rashomot, then I raise myself to a higher state. Is it correct to think that you can't come out of the descent without faith above reason? Right, you can't come out of a descent unless it is through faith above reason, where we join ourselves to the force of Bener, which raises us above the force of good morning. Sometimes the Creator brings you such a state as if the ground beneath you disappears. Of course, very nice. What's the role of this? What's the purpose of this state? That's called that he's hanging the land on a breaking. What do we have to do? You need to pray to the Creator through the friends. That's an answer to every single state. We have. Good evening, dear friends, dear love. With our movement forward in attainment, the contrast between the descents and the ascent grows as well. If that contrast disappears, does the taste of the work disappear as well? Well, maybe yes, maybe not, but maybe, nevertheless, yes. Yes. Let's continue. Excerpt number 26 from article The Meaning of Exile. When he began to work, there had to be some pleasure and reward for which the body agreed to this work. Afterward, when he was permitted to see that there is the matter of for the sake of the Creator, because a mitzvah commandment induces a mitzvah, and he had to ask to be delivered from exile, then he runs from the exile. How does he run from the exile? It is by saying that he will not succeed in this work. Thus what does he do? He commits suicide, meaning leaves the work and returns to corporeal life, which is regarded as the wicked in their lives are called dead. It follows that where he should have asked for redemption from exile, he runs from the exile and commit suicide. This is as it is written, the ways of the Lord are straight, the righteous will walk in them, and the transgressors will fail in them. However, he should go above reason. A descent in spirituality does not mean that now he has no faith. Rather, now he must do more work, and the previous faith is considered a descent compared to this work. It turns out that through faith, meaning through the force of bestow that we're attaining now, by this we open an even greater will to receive that we didn't feel beforehand. And this is how we work with two forces. One helps the other to the extent in which the force of bestow is greater. Then the force of reception is revealed more. The more the force of reception is revealed, we need to try and rise above it. Then, in that we again discover a greater force of reception, like this left-right, we advance. That is, we advance both in the left and in the right, like in 2 feet, and one advances the other. That's how we go, and that's why you shouldn't disregard the left and of course not the right, but give the same degree of importance to the left and the right. And in truth, the left is more because the Creator on purpose created the will to receive in order to bring us independence, existence, and only an ability to adhere just to Him. That's why it's called evil inclination. It's called the help against Him, the help against the Creator, but it helps us to reach adhesion. Let's read it again. Excerpt number 26. When he began to work, there had to be some pleasure and reward for which the body agreed to this work. Afterward, when he was permitted to see that there is the matter of for the sake of the Creator, because a mitzvah commandment induces a mitzvah, and he had to ask to be delivered from exile, then he runs from the exile. How does he run from the exile? It is by saying that he will not succeed in this work. Thus what does he do? He commits suicide, meaning leaves the work and returns to corporal life, which is regarded as the wicked in their lives are called dead. It follows that where he should have asked for redemption from exile, he runs from the exile and commit suicide. This is as it is written, the ways of the Lord are straight, the righteous will walk in them, and transgressors will fail in them. However, he should go above reason. A descent in spirituality does not mean that now he has no faith. Rather, now he must do more work, and the previous faith is considered a descent compared to this work. How do we aim correctly in the work through the changing states? Constantly through the group to the Creator, that's it. If you want to decide on the goal, you need those 2 points. My will to receive, that will be aimed through the group and to the Creator. The goal is the Creator. Yes, and where I look is through the group and I look with my eye. Those 3 points need to be together on lined up as one, the I, the group and the Creator. And then I am certain that it works correctly. Shalom. I love, if I feel easily how I can reconstruct the faith together with it. Work in the 10. I want to constantly nullify before the friends like Rabash right to be a 0 towards them, and the more I annul before them, I invite the reforming light which influences me and brings me this feeling that the force of bestow is greater than the force of reception, because this way I also make an effort towards the group, and then the Creator brings me in accordance with that also. The reforming light as the force of bestow is greater than the force of reception, because the reception is awakened by the Creator and the bestow is awakened by the Creator. If I awaken more of bestow upon the reception in the group I, relative to the others to the friends, then by that I obligate the Creator, I obligate him to influence me that way, and it turns out that my efforts towards the friends comes up here, which is an effort that is maybe not quite in the desire or the understanding, but I'm trying to do this, and when I do it, I invite from the Creator that action, which is called my sons have triumphed over me, where I built the will to receive, and I obligate them to give me the desire to bestow, and from that I receive the desire to bestow from the Creator, and that is already a spiritual feeling that I'm in. That's as much as I can express it now with words, but that's how it works. Okay, PT20. To what extent is it important in activities that are visible, as opposed to things we do inside? Both are important, and Rubbish writes about that as well. We need to also show everyone in our actions that are apparent to the eye how we care for the friends that we care, for the society that we yearn for the time being. This is what we need to do. Later, when we will be bigger, we will see seemingly disregard this because we don't want to come to the Creator as they're disregarding the friends. This is under the condition that our heart will be burning both the friends and the Creator, at which point we will act differently. Why? To give room are as a workplace for the friends to be able to join, overcoming what they see in their eyes, as we disregard things, and then they will say they have eyes and don't see our eyes, don't see that the friends are yearning for connection and to the Creator only. We don't see this in corporality, meaning there will be opposite work here, but that's not for us now, that's after we come to spirituality and the degree love. So when we start raising to, we will have that work. That's still before us PT32, when we feel a disturbance, and you say we have to nullify before the group and then to draw the light. The question is there, are we running away from that disturbance? Because many times it happens that a person doesn't want to be in that disturbance, he wants to be amongst the friends. So what to do? You can run away from every direction, but if you don't work through the disturbance, you're not working. You just northeast, having a good time. USA northeast. Yes, Rob, going through the states. How much time should the person be arguing with convincing the ego, or once we recognize the stage, should we just take upon ourselves the coast words? direction. I don't know what you mean by taking the advice of Kabbalist. You follow the advice of Kabbalist to go with faith above reason or in connection, against disturbances, etc. You work in this. You have to design the situation and fashion it not just with words. You have to really establish it. And then when you're done, you're done. It's like in corporal work. If you got something you have to do when you finish it, you finish it. You can't say that's it. I took it and that's it. I don't need it anymore. Where's the end of it? Where's the result of your work? With the product of this work you have to go and do the next stage. Mach 2. Morning Love World Clay. From the excerpt says, they ran away to corporal reality. Instead of asking, did he have a choice? And why did he choose this? We have to be careful not to run to any corporeal work without an intention, because it is precisely the intention over every corporeal act that we do. This is what creates the spiritual result. It builds the spiritual result. Therefore, let's say I make a meal for the friends. I set up the table, or I prepare them for some conference, virtual conference or something. I have to constantly, and mainly I have to constantly think, why am I doing this? What am I doing? What do I want it to give to each one and to everyone together? The important is you have to constantly chew on the intention more and more and more. And also in your heart, you need to feel that you in this and external actions, we will see that they gradually disappear. The Creator brings our corporeal world toward a state where it is disappearing. It is entering spirituality more and more. It will happen both in our corporeal physical work in families, children, among us, in the connection between us. Everything is gradually, we don't feel it yet, but it's gradually dissolving. Like in technology. Previously there were huge machines and whatnot. Today, I remember my first computer was this box with several other boxes on the floor. The screen was this bulky thing, other was this tube inside. You know, the regular tube. And it illuminated, and you would look at the tube all the time, the lamp through the screen. Your eyes would hurt. Look what is happening today. What about the phones? I remember phones where you still had to turn the dynamo so they would have electricity, and then you would call, and so on and so forth. And so it's all becoming more subtle, more invisible kind of. We are not in material even in corporality. We are still in spirituality. But it's spirituality that is gradually, corporality that is gradually ascending in degrees. So what we feel less and less of the matter, the substance, and therefore in this way in our work, too it goes the same way in the connections between us. Okay, only PT4 hasn't asked yes. He writes here that the faith that precedes it is considered a descent. When we connect to the 10 and attain the quality of restore, what does it mean that this state becomes the preceding faith and a descent? That's what we attained in the previous state, which was a state of connection and love and bestow and devotion between us. Now it is becoming a descent. You could say no, but at that time, we had a connection of love and connection between us. Why did it suddenly become a feeling of descent and remoteness and rejection? It's not the same thing. We still don't see how these states of connection and disconnection, ascent and descent, are relative, meaning that the love I had yesterday has become rejection. Remoteness today, I can't explain it. It is two sides of the same coin. We'll get back to it later, when we switch to working lines. Moshe, let's read on. Excerpt number 27 from Rabash. The Creator is meticulous with the righteous. This excerpt is stronger, nicer, more effective, more powerful. Try to get into it. Yes, the blow that one receives from the Creator, meaning when he takes from him the flavor of the work, by this itself he heals him, because then he has no other way to serve the Creator but with faith above reason. It follows that the blow that he received from the Creator, from this itself he can be healed, but otherwise he will remain in separation. By this we understand what our sages said, that the blows of the Creator he heals. In other words, this is the healing that he gives him room to work with, faith without any support. Also, we should understand what our sages said. The Creator makes a decree, and the righteous revokes it. This means that the Creator makes a decree, meaning that he takes from him the pleasure of the work, and there's no harsher decree than taking from someone the vitality and the work, but the righteous revokes it. That is if a person says he wants to work without any reward or vital vitality or pleasure, then the decree is revoked in any case. Moreover, now he rises to a higher degree, for now he is in a state of pure faith, and is regarded as having no self-interest. Again, the blow that one receives from the Creator when he takes from him the flavour of the work, by this itself, he heals him, because then he has no other way to serve the Creator but with faith above reason. In other words, if I feel no flavour in the work, if I even feel bad, it is the condition that the Creator does create a situation that the Creator creates for me, so that above it I will work in bestowal and connection, because if I feel good, that I understand that I'm connected, that I feel, I will not be able to yearn out of it. For bestow, I can yearn for bestow truly only when I feel bad, both in my mind and in my heart. Yes, it follows that the blow that he received from the Creator, from this itself he can be healed. He can begin to work in faith above reason, because the blow awakens him, wakes him up and directs him. Otherwise he will remain in separation. By this we understand what our sages said, that by the blows of the Creator he heals. In other words, this is the healing that he gives him room to work with faith, without any support. Also, we should understand what our sages said. The Creator makes a decree, and the righteous revokes it. This means that the Creator makes a decree, taking from him the pleasure of the work, and there is no harsher decree than taking from someone the vitality in the work, but the righteous revokes it. That is if a person says he wants to work without any reward of vitality and pleasure, then the decree is revoked in any case. Moreover, now he rises to a higher degree, for now he is in a state of pure faith, and is regarded as having no self-interest. Okay, let's ask, do we have anyone new? We only have a couple of. Rob, you said earlier that spirituality and corporality is a big descent. Can you explain that better? Does this mean that this is a world of illusion? I don't want to get into it. If it's an illusion or not, spirituality, corporeality, I don't want to. We still don't have enough knowledge, enough feelings in relation to it. No, let's drop it. Let's drop it. Bow one. The blow always works as a medicine. What is that in that case? In due time and in haste. In its time and hastening it are two forces that promote us. From the Creator comes the force called in its time. In its time, and meaning it's according to the plan of the Creator, that this is how he decided in advance that corporate morality would rise to spirituality even without people's participation, and besides that there is the path of hastening it, which is with the participation of people, and then we shorten the path, shorten the way. So we want to shorten it, then this is what we try to do. If we quit the work and the Creator doesn't touch us and doesn't awaken us to do our own work, then it'll be in its time, according to what he does. But if there is a results where we want to connect on our part, and we ourselves look for how to complete the connection of the broken clew of, that will be called hastening it. In other words, our work in connection in the group, and is connection in the group, and prayer to the Creator to create the connection in all the groups, and then in the one group. This is the work in hastening it. That's what depends on us. And then we shorten the times. At Toronto 1, Toronto 1, Toronto, they don't have a question. Okay, if they don't have the one, then we have Kabu. Good morning, Rar. Could you clarify what does ill mean in this? Repeat, please. What does mean ill? And this text. Oh, he says if you're sick, it's a person who feels that he has hardening of the heart or burden of the heart. This is called sickness. And the Creator sends him this sickness, and the Creator himself heals him from the will to receive from this illness. And therefore, in the will to receive, that the Creator himself reveals by that he wants to heal the person, just like we. When some illness is revealed, it's not like now I got sick, I was sick before, except now it manifested the illness, and that allows me to cure it. French. Usually in our life, when you're a father, you have children, and there are children that you have to punish. They don't understand there's good children, bad children, and they say that The Creator sends us the sense and to overcome, and so I'm asking myself, does the Creator like bad children? Does He want bring them closer more than good children? Yes, the Creator loves bad kids who want to be good kids. Yes, it is called those who repent. The Creator wants people who want to come closer to Him, who feel far from the Creator because their ego controls them, and they want to correct the ego and by that come closer to the Creator. Those are the people He loves. The Creator loves the wicked. The wicked are those who feel that they are wicked themselves, and in life it takes a long time to realize that the parents wanted good for their children. When will we in spirituality, we will make it so that we will be big meaning. Talk about it in the group, talk about it among yourselves, and you'll see how it brings you closer to the right thoughts, to prayer and to the purpose. German for the greater He by the blows. So why do we call it still blow? Why haven't we invent a new word for this? Wouldn't that change the perception of reality? Well, because that's how we feel it in our will to receive. The will to receive that's still not corrected in that specific desire where it feels the blows. It feels it as a blow. That's why it says that by the Creator, revealing the will to receive that's uncorrected. We feel it as a blow. That's why it says where the Creator beat strikes by that He heals because He's We will summarize, friends, in our workshop the main words we heard in the lesson now. So the main topic was to bestow contentment to the Creator above all states. And the definition of the scent that we got from a few places is that I don't know how to use the disturbances correctly. And then also says that the scent in spirituality doesn't mean that I have no faith, but I have to work more in the previous faith. The previous state is a descent compared to the state. I heard a few very beautiful examples. First of all, the example with the scope and the rifle. The I is the receive, and the scope is the group, and the we have to aim to the Creator. There was the definition of Rav that, like you were sick before, but only now you know that you're sick. On one hand, it's good because you already know how to heal yourself. The Creator beats, and He also heals. And the last thing is that the Creator loves bad kids that want to be good kids. Here, gave that feeling how necessary it is to go through disturbances on the path that without them there's nothing to overcome, and without revelation of evil, without revelation of the blows a person didn't reach faith above reason, as He said, if there's no reason, so you don't have faith above. There was a very important part where you do actions that are corporal, so one needs to really study and go deeper in the intention, really need it. And there's this kind of tendency. There's no corporality. Everything is spirituality, and everything is becoming refined. And the Creator brings things, even coarse things that were in the past now became more and more delicate. He gave examples of in technology and science, and now it's becoming more and more delicate. And it's like even our corporeal world is gradually kind of evaporating and becoming more delicate and fine, and is supposed to be evaporated from our senses. I wrote the same things that be careful not to fall into corporeal work with no intentions, but the intention is what gives a spiritual result, and the work is through disturbances and how to deal with it. So to pray through the group to the Creator, that's the answer to each and every state I get. To add the group is the scope. Everything is foggy in me. The place where He beats, that's where He heals. I remember Rav summarizing with that He gives the disease and the cure. And you already mentioned that the world that is vaporizing. You can see that this was a few years ago, but it's really felt that way. Even the bodies are vaporizing. No need for work or people. But we're advancing. And friends also mentioned the working on two legs, that there's always. When we increase the force of bestow, also the force of reception is revealed. So we'll keep going on the right. And they shall be new in your eyes, or each time a person starts from zero and forgets that the connection and the appeal to the Creator is to the friends. And actually each time from a more superior state, and this new connection that's created between the friends and the Creator is each time in a new place. As adding, we have to feel that the disturbances are a necessary and important part. So we'll discover a tendency to the Creator, to connection, and to the group. Upon what will I feel that I'm yearning? For connection only above disturbances. that I'm going against the wind, against the desire that something's disturbing me, but I can't reach it. From that I make an effort, from that I show as much as I want to be connected. I'll add, I heard through the lesson how is repeating principles. We have to be in connection between us to be a zero before the friends. Give importance, greatness. In this part of the lesson we are studying in the study of the tense a lot. We are in part 4 of the study of, we're in the Hebrew page 270 inner observation chapter 4 item 71. Again item 71 in the inner observation of part 4, and in order to prepare ourselves for the study we are going to do 2 things today. One thing is we're going to read a verse from about the intention during the study. We will watch a clip from Raf that relates to the content of the lesson, and then we'll move to the lesson itself. Writes in the introduction to the study of the 10 item 97, during the practice of Torah, every person must labor in it, and set his mind and heart to find the light of the King's face in it, meaning attainment of open providence, called light of the face. Any person is capable of it, as it is written, those who seek me shall find me. Thus, one needs nothing in this matter, except the labor alone. Again, the introduction to the study of item 97, during the practice of Torah, every person must labor in it, and set his mind and heart to find the light of the King's face in it, meaning attainment of open providence, called light of the face. Any person is capable of it, as it is written, those who seek me shall find me. Thus, one needs nothing in this matter, except the labor alone. Now we will see a clip of a Ravi, please. The 5th type are the vessels that of the first expansion called the light of I. The 5th type are vessels that separated from the upper light called the coarse light, because after the tense field of the goof expanded from Actal, and the 3rd type, then the upper light returned and departed from them, and the vessels remained empty of light. And there's a big discernment here between what the vessels before the lights and the vessels that came after the lights were in them. Because the first expansion, even though it's considered a vessel of reception in practice in the valve, they still are not considered real vessels yet, because of the great importance the vessels had there. He mentions there that the vessels and the light inside it are mixed with one another. Why? There's no difference between light and vessel. They both want to be still. I took from my desires such desires that, by the reflected light, they completely resemble the light that enters them. Otherwise, how will they enter? So, there's no difference between light and vessel. They are both in bestow. It's not even felt light or the vessel, because in spirituality the quality determines. It doesn't matter if this is matters existence from existence or that's existence from absence. If they work in the same way, they're the same. That's what happens to us when we draw the lights into the vessels from their completely equal. Otherwise, how could they be revealed? The lights in the vessels, after the light departed from the vessel, then we can see their coarseness, because the point of judgment was revealed, the point of restriction, that we cannot deal with these lights. That still, before the course wasn't revealed, that was obviously in those vessels, but it wasn't revealed. Now when the coarseness is revealed more, so the lights departed, and then the gap between light and vessel was apparent, and these vessels are called the coarse vessels. So this means it was always there. It was just wasn't revealed towards the created being. That's why we say in a certain height that the lights and vessels were awakened in that height where there was a decision in the obviously the light and vessel were equal. Now what about? They have more cause comes they're not equal anymore, so the entrance of the lights cause the formulation of the vessel. The entry of the light causes the formulation of their study of part 4, inner observation chapter 4 item 71. We're going to study with Rabash. You're asking, what's the difference between a clothing record or a record of coarseness? A record of clothing is called that there's an impression left from the light that was clothed in the vessel. A record of coarseness that a record was left the way it extended, what it wanted. So we say no, the last phase was lost, and he's left with an overcoming of the conditions he had with the upper light. The light wants to bestow. He also wants to be a bestower. So first he could have said, let's say, 3 phases in order to bestow. If so, it would adapt himself to the upper light. Now not anymore. More than 2 phases it can't. That's called that now it cannot use its will to receive. Why? Earlier it could use the will to receive. It could have make a screen upon it, and now it cannot. So 71, what's the headline? The 5th kind is the vessels of the first expansion, called coarse light. 71. The 5th kind is vessels that were emptied of the upper light, magnitude kind, of coarse light. So what's written here? After the tense field of the roof expanded, and let's start over. 71. The 5th kind is vessels that were emptied of the upper light, but these vessels called coarse light. What does it mean coarse light? So he explains. After the tense of the goof expanded, from the to the taboo as the 3rd kind. You remember what the 3rd kind was. 2nd kind was in the 3rd kind is called the tense of the, so the upper light departed from within them once again, and the vessels remained empty of light. There's a big difference here. Although in the above first expansion, they are discerned as actual vessels of reception, so we learned that the first expansion, they are nevertheless not regarded as real vessels yet. You could notice a difference between light and vessel. Even though there are vessels, it's still called that you can't recognize it. Why? Because of the great importance that the vessels have there. As it is written here in inner light, this is why it says there that the vessels and the 3rd light within them are mixed. However, after the light departs from there, the coarseness became apparent, and a difference is made between the light and the vessel. That is why these vessels are called coarse light. So what is he saying? He says, the 3rd kind of the vessels is called the light that expands. For him, what was in potential before is now expanding in actual. So he's actually receiving. But still, it is not considered a vessel yet. What does it mean considered a vessel? That the deficiency was apparent between light and vessel because of the importance, as we gave an allegory about it once. When a person is hungry and you give him a meal, he cannot say that the hunger is a deficiency. On the contrary, it gives him taste for the meal. Just as the meal gives taste, also when he is hungry, he also gives. When he's hungry, there's also taste in the meal, but when he's hungry and he has nothing to eat, he doesn't have a meal. That's called hungry within a deficiency. Who he says, in the first expansion in the gar, or he includes his vessel. That's why the vessel was not called a deficiency yet, so the calls that light and vessel are mixed in one another. But after the light departed, then their coarseness became apparent. So we see this is a light, and this is a vessel. Seeing because the light departed from the vessel wasn't okay. So then these vessels are called coarse light. What is a coarse light? That to begin with it was revealed that it was also coarse, and not specifically now. Just now it's revealed. So you're asking me what's the difference between the wall to receive in to the wall to receive parts of you're asking me. Go again. It received the light. Receiving in order to receive. Here. Received just a part of what he could aim in order to bestow. The rest remained as surrounding light. So he says a part of what he receives in order to bestow. He receives that part, and that part doesn't cause a deficiency in the vessels. On the contrary, they give us importance that they could receive light in those vessels that he could receive them in order to bestow. So that is also coarseness, but was in order to bestow, and the light would shine in them. So that's not called a deficiency. But afterwards when the light departed, why did it depart? Why did the light depart? Because it was lacking equivalence of form. So to begin with, that's caused that reflective light. That was in order to bestow. That didn't use the will to receive it. Was only a correction, not something. Actual evidence for that is wow. The light, the reflected light departed. That's called that the coarse light did not rise up. That's not called a light. That's born out of 2 forces from 1 course of rejection. We learned the light that's rejected. So now we find that he lost that force. Which force? The force of the screen. So the light departed. Why? You have to say that this is coarse and this is refined, that there's no equivalence between them. That's why it's called that the vessels. Now that this is a coarse light and this is a refined light. So what does he want to tell us by that? Now the difference between them is apparent. What he said earlier was, although they are regarded as from the when they actually received, the actual vessels of reception. They are nevertheless not regarded as real vessels yet, because of the great importance that the vessels have there, as is written there. In inner light, the light could shine in them, but now, when the light departs, so there's a question, why did it depart? Because there's coarseness in the vessels. That's why there's a recognition of that coarseness. So the sixth kind now we'll understand more is that the vessels that were emptied of their lights and the records that remained sustain them. What is the sixth type? 72. The sixth kind is vessels that were emptied when after the departure of the light, and the records and the vessels are records from the lights that departed remained in them, part that remained from the light. The record to sustain and revive the vessels to make them suitable to acquire their lights as in the beginning. This record illuminates them to extend the light again. This is part of the records that remain in the vessels to bring livelihood to the vessels also. They shine to the after them, as this says here, that names shine here too and below too. So, what he says here, also they shine to the after them. That's what he says as this says here. So I do not interpret what he the words of the I want to interpret what he mentioned therein, in a light. So he says this, the records that remain from the lights that departed. We find two discernments in them. One, for their own need. Two, or the second, that will be meaning, for saying that the records remain to bring livelihood to the vessels. He says that the screen was incorporated of all. The vest of the records that rose up to the degree asks for the force of the screen on his records, the upper one, give them a screen on. Those records, how much? According to the records that remain there. So you have to discern one, that the record brings livelihood to its own vessels. 2. The records are the cause for the second degree to come. Here he mixes things. So look again what he wrote in 72. The sixth kind is vessels that were emptied after their departure, and records from the lights that departed remain in them. What's he write after that? The records sustain and revive the vessels to make them suitable to acquire their lights, as in the beginning. That means, afterwards when the light comes again, it'll have forces to receive. That's one. But who brings them the light? That they will have something to receive. You see here it's written to make them suitable to acquire their lights as in the beginning. So who will give them the light? That's why we learn. The screen rises from the records to the lush of the degree. The outper one performs a coupling for him and then expands. An allegory. An example, the screen of Dalgar that had coalesce a phase form. The screen incorporated from the records. The last phase was lost must. Say it ascended to the garter and a coupling was made on the third phase, and that expanded below to where to the previous vessels we find they are worthy to receive. But who brought them the light? That they will have what to attain. Those are the records. And here what else did we learn? That the records that rise up, except for them filling the empty vessels of the coupling that was in A on phase 3, when the degree of A became, so that's called the inner, since it clothed in the internality of the vessels of Galar. We also learn, then came a coupling on the taboo. Screen of the taboo that was in the wash descended below, after the coupling, returned to the, and since it was above, it was incorporated from the coarseness, from below upward called. Coarseness of the then a new coupling was made at the, from there until there comes the external, and below, that the goof of the external, and that's already court the lower. We find according to that the records shine also in the of life too. So they shine, and they cause. Meaning the records illuminate as they are, meaning not specifically in phase 3 in them, but as they remain. So he doesn't explain it. He just mentions it, as they had light in the beginning. Now, they also have light. It was always like in the beginning. 73. The seventh kind is vessels that were emptied, and no records were left in them. So the seventh kind is vessels that were emptied after the departure. No records of the lights that departed were left in them. They are the last phase of every PSU and expansion, because the last phase does not leave a record as the says. This is the same as been explained above. We learned that we are left with vessels, and afterwards the lights come to them. But we also are left with vessels that don't have lights. That's the seventh kind. So which vessels remain that the lights That didn't come. The vessel of the last phase. What is the last phase? In each and every degree there is a last phase, so the light shines till there. So in Allegoria, if in part of, we call that phase 4. Until here it's phase 3 no more. Until here. So we find that the last phase of each and every degree is lost. And every time you have a different last phase. So he says what the 7 kinds that were emptied after the departure, and no records of the light that departed were left in them. He learns, and he asks, if we say vessel, we're not left with a vessel, but a light without a vessel also has to be brought to life. So he says that the light of the shines, a record of the light of the illuminates in the vessel of Mal in order to understand what he says here in the 7 type. We should look at 43. That's where he writes the same thing. 43. It's written the same thing there. No. That this record of the female face, which is called the final or the last discernment, did not remain after the departure of the light from there, and though she is not lost, as there is no absence in the spiritual world, she remains silent and completely inactive until the end of correction. Writes that the last phase does not leave a record, only the record of the male phase remains there, the record of clothing there. When the ket rises and departs, it leaves one record in its place, and the vessel to shine from it to below it after it rises and departs. See in the light this is already theirs. All the connection with the well what we talked about, only what the vessel that needs to remain, and the final correction will be receiving light again. So that vessel needs to have one someone to sustain it, give it vitality. And so, this vital does not give it life. Look at the first line there where it's written. First line there, it's written like this. However, the light of Malat does not leave a record in its vessel. If so, where from? Who sustains the vessel of Malat? Only the record that the light of left in its vessel. The illumination is extended from there to the vessel of man after the departure of her light. 74. What is he saying here? The headline, the 8th kind is vessels that were qualified for the purpose of the next which follows it. What is he saying here? We'll explain it. The 8th kind is the phase of vessels that were prepared and qualified in the, not just the vessel from them for their own sake, but the clee for the purpose of the next which follows it. Brought in the words, even the vessel of which the says there, that it was not made in the first part, but only in the following parts. The phase of the vessel of Ket from the male phase was nevertheless prepared from the first part. What's written here? We learned that there are 2 kinds of vessels in the part of Galar. There was the light that was intermingled with or mixed with the light together. You remember that when I need to be a clean, then the lights have departed. And we learned it such, if you remember, after the light of the clee of Malat departed. So now a coupling took place in the vessel of, so the light of descended with sparks to the reflected light. Sparks of reflected light, which he calls them the vessel of Mal. So there was a beating there. Why there was this clash in the why? Because in the vessel of Mal there was the level of, in phase 3, which is called the vessel of, one smaller degree does not want to receive it. And what is this beating? Since there is above the vessel of the next light, that is now anew, as far as phase 4, this is only a record. Therefore, he learns that the light overcomes seemingly, and the sparks descend, and the reflected light to the vessel of Malat. This is a vessel that had the level of Keter. By this, a diminution took place in the vessel of Ket, and a clee for later was made later, when the light of Ket will come, and they will bring the light of in the vessel of Keter. There's already a preparation so that the light of will illuminate for it, and qualify the phase of that fell into. There I'll give an example. What we and my what is he speaking of there? The departure of the light, and these beatings that were in that, between discernment to discernment face, to face made of vessels for who for the second part. So we need to know, if I want to distinguish, there's another 8th kind called vessels that were made not for the sake of the degree itself, but rather to qualify the vessel for the second part. Now we will go over again over 74, where 8th kind is the phase of vessels that were prepared and qualified in the parts for the purpose of the next part, which follows it brought in the words. He says even the vessel of which the says there that it was not made in the first part. but only in the following parts of phase of the vessel of Keter from the male phase was nevertheless prepared from the first. What is male, what is female? We learned there that in there was the fourth four of clothing, and four of clothing is called the light of. So he says, as the record remained in his, that cannot be the same thing. Again, he says it this way: each degree receives its diminution from the upper degree which is smaller than her. It turns out that he's saying that the light of Keter, which emerged on the vessel of Keter, and above the Ket there is no one to beat it, to strike it, and diminish it. It turns out that it is not made into a vessel of Keter, but rather later in the second part, after the light of AB came, and there was a matter of the beating, there the matter of the striking that the brings, and then a vessel of the female of the light of Keter is made, meaning for the coarseness of phase 3, but for the phase of clothing of the male light that he is written there. He says, it remains in the degree. How does he say it? It's written here, with that, nevertheless, the phase of the vessel of Keter from the male phase was nevertheless prepared from the first, as it is explained in the other. It simply remained, and the record remained, and therefore it could come to the same thing. That's also a little difficult. What's a little difficult? We say the male light is called the light of clothing, is the degree of Ket or level of Ket. This was okay if the light of Ket would come back in return. We learned that if Keter comes upon clothing, only Vak of Keter illuminates, and not the Ket in essence, and it's also not the same thing, and there's also a difference in this Rafi in the fine light of the wool, and he doesn't explain that. So what we have to learn here is 75. What are we learning in 75? The above kind of vessels which we spoke of once is the male vessels in the next that were prepared for the second part. So now he explains it a little bit more. 75. This above mentioned eighth kind we learned is the male vessels for the purpose of the next part. They come from the records that the lights left in the vessels after their departure from the coarse light included in the records, meaning light. The male vessels were made. If so, he explains there about the records above. It's not a new thing. So, now he is going to explain. It's nothing new. He's going to explain something nothing new. Now I'm spoken about the ninth kind. The ninth kind is vessels. The vessels that were prepared in the parts for the female vessels for the following parts. Now we spoke about the eighth kind, where the vessels are for males for the second person, and we learned what's the difference between males and females. Males, the meaning is to the matter of clothing, meaning prior to that there was in level Keter, and now it's also in the level of Ket, and the females are coarseness. In coarseness, we learned the last phase is lost, and there's here only the light of female as far as phase 3. This is what it says. The ninth is the vessels for the females that were prepared in the first part for the purpose of the following part, meaning in the second. When the light of will come to the vessel of Ker, is there connection in this being in a vessel of Keter? There needs to be some preparation in the vessel of Keter to be able to receive the light of this, is where he says they were made. How? What was made of these vessels, of the sparks that fall into the empty vessels after the light departed from them, which come from the illumination of the coupling in the upper phase of the empty vessel, as this says. What's written here? Again, they were made of the sparks that fall into the empty vessels after the light departed from them, which come from the illumination of the coupling in the upper phase to the empty vessels. A coupling was made upon phase 3, and he wants to fill the vessel of Malat, as there is the light of phase 4, the light of the records of the level of Keter, and he does not want to receive it, since the record of Keter is more important than phase 3 from the level of, since this is only a record and it's not a true light. Hence we learn that the light overcomes the record, and since there is a striking, he calls this sparks of the level of that have fallen to the vessels that illuminate in the light of Keter. This becomes the preparation for later, when the light of will come into the vessels of Keter. Since there's already sparks there of light of, he says, the ninth kind are the vessels of the females that were prepared in the first part. The first part, for the purpose of the following part. In the part of Galor, when the departure was made, there was a preparation for the sake of part, and they were made of the sparks that fall into the empty vessels after the light departed from them, which come from the illumination of the coupling in the upper phase of the empty vessel, as the upper phase are from the empty vessels, meaning the empty vessel is upon phase 3, let's say, and this is phase 2. It turns out that the phase of bin fell into the vessel of, hence when the light of bin came to the vessel of, there was already a preparation, since there were sparks of beneath in the next part. The light change, and the light of comes in the vessel of Keter, the light of Biner in the vessel and the light of in the vessel of Biner. And they needed vessels there that will be equal to their own faith of the light. That now comes the light of the light of Biner in the vessel of, for example. For this reason, these sparks had been prepared, the sparks that fell from the level of Biner into the empty vessel of the level of became the vessel for the light of Biner, which comes now in the vessel of. Similarly, the sparks that fell from the level of Zanpin from phase 1 into the vessel of the level of Biner became a vessel for the light of Zanpin, which comes later in the part the light of Zanin in the vessel of Bin. And there's already a preparation for the sparks from phase 1 that have fallen to phase 2, as he says here. It turns out accordingly. What is the difference between the 8th kind and the 9th kind? The 8th kind speaks of vessels that were prepared for the next part, for the lights, the male lights. The 9th kind, vessels that were prepared from the first part for the sake of the light of females. What is the light of male? What is the male of female? What is the light of male? What is the light of female? The light, the next light upon the light, that comes upon the record of clothing. The clothing is called male. It has our 8th kind. These are vessels of light of male, male light. The 9th kind are vessels of the light of female. What does it have to do in the light being male or female light? For our vessels, I understand in vessels we learn the differences. But in the light, how can you say the differences between male light and female light? Do you understand the question? Answer: the light that is revealed upon the record of clothing, and in the record of clothing there is no coarseness. This light I call male light. What is the name of the light? The light of Ketu, if we're talking about Gala, the records of the part of the Ketu that remains with the record, with every record in his, each in its record in his vessel, meaning that it will come later in the light of Ket to the vessel of Ket. There are records of every light in his vessel. Therefore he says, in item 75, this above mentioned 8th kind is the male vessels for the purpose of the next part. They come from where? From the records that the lights left in the vessels after their departure from the coarse light included in the records, meaning reflected light. The male vessels were made. Now, what is the 9th kind? He says the female vessels. What is the meaning of vessels for females? There was a coupling upon a face, that is, female, and coarseness of phase 3. Coarseness is called female, and here comes the inner light upon this coupling on phase 3, and there was an exchange of lights. The light of came in the vessel of Keter. What connection is there the light of in the vessel of Keter? After all, there is no equivalence between and, so they say in the first part in the parts of Gala, immediately a preparation was prepared to be able to bring light of in the vessel of Keter. How was that? Since the records that were in the vessel of Malat, let's say, of the degree of, and the vessels became empty, and then came the coupling, came upon the higher degree in the level of Ket. Striking took place. What's the striking? Here she's after all. Then the coupling came on the phase 3, the light, and the phase 3 wanted to illuminate the vessel of Marlu. That was there the light of Keter, and the record does not want to receive it. It came to the degree that is higher to the level of Keter. A striking took place. What's the striking here? After all, she is right. Since this was the true light, the level of the light is only a record, the remnants of what remained from the light. And then there's a striking. They're both correct. They say, since this is the actual light, therefore the light dropped sparks from the light of phase 3 to the vessel of Malat, which has records of phase Keter. And we learned there that the light of the records emerged outwards from the cleave of Keter, and the records of sparks of phase 3 have fallen to the vessel of Keter. It turns out that now we have sparks of light of and a vessel of Keter. Therefore, later when it comes, in the light of in the vessel of Keter, there's already sparks of the phase of that are in there. Preparation for there to be equivalence with the light that will come later, meaning there's a difference between the record that the new light does not come from and the lights and not the records. Therefore, the next light renews always and overcomes. What is striking? If one is right, there's no striking. What does this mean? This is mine. So, what's the quarrel about? A strike in spirituality is called that there's two contradicted thens. Yes, and it's like one claims, this is all mine, and the other claims, this is all mine. What's the claim? This is phase 4 and this is phase 3. What claim do I have? He has just a record. That's not real light, and therefore that's considered a striking. But who overcomes? They say whoever is more important. And since this light comes a new light, and there's only a record, therefore they take the new light, and since it comes as a striking, they call this by sparks. No, you are asking, why is it written that they ascended? Since here they're saying why is it time? Sorry they fallen. It should say that they rose up. We are now talking, not from the lights. We are speaking now about the vessels. The vessel of phase 4 is called a vessel of the last phase, and that of phase 3 is called the upper one. If phase 3 illuminates to Mal is that called who ascended now. The sparks of phase 3 have fallen to the vessel, the empty vessel, which is phase 4. Therefore, as they fell below to the empty vessel, it is called that. They have fallen. When it was above, I was together with her light, like in the level of. What place did they come to now? The empty vessel below. Hence it was concerned phase 3 fall into phase 4. That's why we're talking from vessels. Another example. Phase 2, the light that was illuminating in phase 2 and the empty vessel of phase 3 remained that was the light of was there before, so the light of HME that will be in the vessel of phase 3 does not. Let's go to the next part of the lesson. And now we're going to hear a talk on the path with love called our responsibility, but the management is on the Creator. It was from December 20th. Please, I have a question. Why did Kababis not describe the state of connection that it can be like in marketing for a person to be drawn to it? Why did they draw it to us depict it in nice ways? How could that be? Would be in order to receive. All right, that's the problem. How on one hand do we attract, and on the other hand kind of repel? You want to attract a person to come, on the other hand you don't want to tempt him too much to show him this picture that will fill him, but rather kind of like reject him so he will come. How do you bring that middle kind of? You need to give place for a person that doesn't have a desire to receive in order to receive. That's on one side. On the other side, he still has questions and scrutinies, that he reaches a state that he has no choice, that he will even take that. So this week a lesson, a recorded lesson from 10-15 years ago. You see many friends that were friends and they disappeared. Really a lot of people that disappeared left. Some of them went into religion, opened businesses, H1 wherever the Creator kicked them, and I was trying to understand what really in the end sustains a person. Here what holds him, it's like matter. It's the will to receive. If there's no filling, why should he be here? What will help a person hold on here without getting filling all the time to continue? More and more and more. What is that strength? What is that force? Does it really depend on a person? Are we like puppets? The Creator. Why does he hold one person and not the other? The Creator. What can you do? What does he want from me that he doesn't want from someone else? Why didn't he put him and take me out? That's none of your business. It's none of your business. But to what extent do we need to put conditions here? Like sometimes we're really investing a lot of forces and thought to make comfortable conditions for a person to do this and that for him to stay. In the end we see that nothing helps. If the Creator, like you're saying, decides that person leaves, he takes him out and that's it. Or is this a part and that a part? And we need to try to do the best conditions that could be for a person so that he stays, chase after him, and this or no give normal conditions. I'm not saying to truly reject them, but if normal conditions and if the Creator will want, he'll advance him and, if not know how much thought and forces should we invest in. You have to try to make of him a friend, that he will want connection, and also to get a taste of what spiritual taste is. I'll give you an example. If you'd come to a lesson to him, that's how you told us that you had to even pay for every lesson. Also, he didn't attract people to him too much. He said these are the conditions. I won't get into the details of what the conditions, but it's clear what they were right away. He said straightforward, no games, you more, how do you say, large soft, yeah, here and there, but you also don't chase after students, and whatever you need you cut, and that's it. We are trying even more to attract them, to make a framework. You want to wake up at night, it's okay, you can do it. Afternoon, in the evening, and everything's fine, just stay. Is that right? Is it correct? Not correct? I don't know. Because in the end we see it doesn't matter what the Creator decides, and that's it. How soft and how much should we kind of soften the conditions? That's the real question. Do you have an answer? If there's a society that can be in connection, and in their connection they can reach the purpose of creation, so there's nobody here resisting it. The Creator does it all. I'm talking about us, not about the Creator. I'm talking about us. How much do we need to soften the conditions and to do everything so that a person will want to be with us and stay, or really just put before him right in his face the conditions. Survive, if not of course, not to repulse, reject purpose, but do what Carbers did throughout the generations, or do we need to do the opposite because of this last generation? Make more kind of more delicate frameworks. I didn't see that the Rabash was so soft. Clear, that's the question. Do we need to take an example from Rabash from the before them, or because this is the last generation and people are nevertheless different? Maybe behave accordingly. If the Creator brings a person here, holds a person here, he gives, he takes, he does everything. So why is it important to hold the students? Why, for example, it was important for you to sustain these students, to help them, for them to be here. Whoever comes, welcome. Whoever leaves, good luck. It's a simpler approach because the Creator is managing things and we don't need to bother his management. Yep, is that the approach, or why does there need to be someone guarantors to them? Why do I have to hold them while I support them? And then it doesn't depend on my support. Nobody's his friend. We're talking on the height of this table. The height of the table in my height, and his I need to care for him, despite the knowledge that actually the one who's caring for him is the Creator. He'll hold him, and that's clear that behind everything is the Creator. Tomorrow you can expel that friend outside. It doesn't depend on me at all. He has a plan of his own, not mine. You do your thing, and the Creator does his thing. Why am I in the plan of the Creator? Why am I trying to do actually my plan and not be with his? You don't know his plan. The question is whether the organization takes care of this or only friends. Let's say I'm in a 10. I want to be with a friend together. However you build it, however you build the system, can I change my friend's fate? Yes. How is that possible? With your words. If according to the Creator's plan, a friend is supposed to be here for a period of time and then he leaves, I don't know. I'm not getting into this. That's none of my business. So, how do I change a friend's fate? How is it possible if he has a clear plan in advance? But that's how we're connected to one another. That means that I'm above the Creator. If I can change his plan, there's an upper plan. How do you know? It's written. We learn it's written. Yes, it's clear. I agree with you. My words now are nothing. And what am I? Changing the friend's fate by you offering him to make a few means to hold himself here to strengthen himself. The approach needs to be that I don't put the plan of the Creator before me. I don't even know what it is. It doesn't interest me. I need to do my part towards friends. And if the friend remains or doesn't remain, leaves, I just accept it. There's no else besides him. That's the plan. That's the approach. That's it. Meaning even if the friend left, I can't say to myself I did something not okay. Usually not. What is a miracle for you? What is a miracle? Did you have a miracle happen to? Miracle for me, I don't know what a miracle is. Didn't miracles happen to you in your life? If I look at the past, I can say that. The fact that I came to the Labash that was next to him, that was a miracle. After that, no. But the question if it's right, because it's close to being disregarding something. Well, what's that close to disregarding? I didn't understand. Disregarding that I'm saying that I don't feel miracles, or didn't have miracles. This is the correct approach to look at every action as a miracle. We're sitting now together, the group, the 10 having a meal together, reading from the sources. Is that also considered a miracle, or is that just another moment in our life? I don't know. What was a miracle for me? I can't say that for everybody that's the way it has to be for each and everyone. How should a person relate to a miracle? I understand the person kind of decides whether it's a miracle or not, because it could be for one person it's a miracle and for another not. What's not on the way of nature, what's not in the way of nature, what can be? That's not through nature, what it could be. I simply don't understand the way of nature. If someone now 200 years ago would see someone flying in the air as far as they're concerned, it's miracle. We understand it's not a miracle. So, what is? No mushy? Why to arrive to come to Rabash is considered a miracle, according to all your search prior to that. You came to a person, you tearied to him, you learned from him. Why is it a miracle? Why do you make it into a miracle? That's the question. I respected him so much that it was a miracle for me. Why is it above your nature? About something that you weren't, that wasn't you? No. In order to respect him, did you make great efforts, or did it simply come to you by the way of nature? You saw a great person, and no, not through nature. No, so you it means you made efforts to appreciate him. No efforts, meaning without effort you simply you valued him that way, that it was a gift that you received, a gift, something great, because it's a true miracle, a miracle to respect someone like that with no matter who, without an effort, no matter who, it's a miracle. Well, that's how it is. Can you in one sentence give a definition of what a miracle is? A miracle is what usually doesn't happen. Friends, let's do a quick 3-minute workshop summary of what we were impressed from the discussion. I don't know. I guess a miracle is something that is a bit personal. You have to be careful not to disregard. I'm not sure it's disregarding, so you have to scrutinize this delicate relation here between everything that happens to me is a miracle to nothing that happens is a miracle. So a person somehow needs to work with these questions. The Creator does everything, and there were no concessions when it came to rubbish. The Creator takes care of all the friends, and he decides who remains, who continues. On one hand, on the other hand, also the friends can save a friend with a word, with investing in the friend. These two things supposedly collide, but actually they don't. We don't know the Creator's plan. We have to do what we need to do. The Creator has a plan. He has his plans and manages everything, but we need to do our part all the time. So yes, we need to care for the friends constantly. There's a part that belongs to us, part that belongs to the Creator. But our goal is to give the friends the taste and the quality of the stock. I didn't understand too much from this talk, but I remember that I heard once from that a miracle, something that we can see the cause and the result. In the beginning it was speaking about us being a generation that has more softer, more comfortable conditions. Maybe yes, maybe no. It's not so clear altogether. They talked about the afternoon lesson, the evening lesson, which is something that Ra decided upon. So maybe we need to keep this, fulfill it in the right way. And this is probably for our generation this way. And all the questions of when to let go of a friend, how much to chase after him or not. Then Ra answered, if he's a friend, then we decide. It's a matter of friendship. I thought, after everything is the Creator. Hello friends, in the first part of the lesson, and we will study a lesson from November 19th, 2020 on the topic of work with faith above reason. We'll be reading excerpts from the sources. Excerpt 25. Hello, we are in a lesson on the topic of the work in faith about reason. We're going to read selected excerpts from the sources, beginning with excerpt number 25. You can find the material on CAP TV. To watch it on the Alvote, you can click the icon in the top menu. Can you ask questions on CAP TV? Selected questions that are relevant to the topic will be asked during the lesson. I heard how you were speaking now about how to bring contentment to the Creator. We learn that certainly this can be done only if we do this through the friends. Otherwise, you cannot address the Creator. The more we repeat this, first in hearing, then in speaking, and then it becomes in action, where we come to such a state, we need to already be aimed to it automatically. And nevertheless, this is not a given. That to turn to the Creator I can only through the friends, because each time we have new, each time a new vessel that is shattered is revealed in a higher up layer, in a higher layer, meaning those shatterings are being revealed from that shattering of more and more. Therefore, each time a person feels as if he never did any spiritual work at all, or that he's in spirituality, that it's already past, that he has no desire for it. It's written, and they shall be new in your eyes, where each time it's new. That's why when I went to turn to the Creator, I need to remember each time, truly from nothing, from zero, that it's possible only through the friends. And we need to remind each other about this. One will help his friend, and this is being with a tendency towards the Creator, which moves specifically through the friends, where we stabilize our address to the Creator through them, as much as we arrange the group and feel that connection between us, and from the connection between us, where which I am also causing as well, though we truly reveal Him between us, and each time it's new again and new again, and that's how it until the end of correction. Then too, as Kabul is saying, we have even greater concealment, and again we need to connect the 10, and then reveal the Creator in it again in order to adhere to Him, and that's how it is, until probably the work is already over and we come to a permanent state, and something else opens up for us, nevertheless. So, the problem is just that we have to constantly hold on to the general spirits in the society, such that if we fall from knowledge of it, from the feeling, from that tendency, which is correct through the grip to turn through the group to turn to the Creator, where each of us is for everyone, and from everyone already together towards the Creator.